So hopefully this will be my first phone upload video, because I'm just now getting around, and I'm going to talk about edumacation here. I always try to educate you on the videos. Call these life hack videos because it's just all the stuff that I run into. And then I want to get into addressing a comment made by one of the people who watch my channel. And I'll address that at the end. You can stay tuned to the end. But I'm more about educating you than I am worried about. Well, of course, I want to address all comments, but it's when I get there. All right, so the first thing was, let's talk a little bit of, well, I call it cybersecurity. That was my business, but I guess computer, just general knowledge. The first dilemma that I had was I have a Netgear R6300 router, and for whatever reason, my download speeds were about 1 gigabyte, because I've got fiber hooked into the house, but my upload speeds wouldn't go over like 0.9 megabits per second, and I couldn't figure out. I figured it. Well, I didn't know it was the router until, and so this will help you troubleshoot these problems. I had to hook the fiber modem, because it's a fiber modem, directly into one of my computers that does a basically an RJ45 connection to the router, and bypass the router completely and see what my download and upload speeds were, and it solved the problem. So that identified the router as the problem. So I went into the router, and I had another router that I'd been sitting in a box for about 2 years, and I just never converted over to it, because when I got into it, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Maybe I'll make this a couple of videos, but that's the Linksys EA9500. Now, if you're familiar with routers at all, that is the cat daddy. I mean, that's a heavy booger. It's got like 8 antennas. I bought it because I figured it'd be a huge upgrade over the Netgear, although the Netgear was doing just fine. It just was that upload speed. So I wanted to make note of all of the configuration settings on the R6300. So I was kind of going through them one by one, and I came to this setting that was more or less talking about throttling, and I was like, why is this checked? I said, I don't really understand. I went into the manual, and there was nothing in the manual about it. Now, I probably documented it in my book, and boy, I tell you, I need to go back and read my book, because my book's got more information than these manuals do. But anyway, so what it was, and I assume I probably did this up in Michigan, was throttling the upload. And that was because once upon a time I had my ex-wife and my stepdaughter living at the house. And so whenever I would do these big uploads at the house, even back then I was kind of working on, doing a YouTube channel. And it would just crank down all of the TVs, and so she'd start banging on the floor, because all of a sudden the TV's doing the spin, because, and then so I assume I set that to limit the upload speed, but I don't know why I would limit it so immensely. I mean, that was what. Anyway, all I did was disable that, and that solved the problem. So I could have just stuck with the Netgear router, but I thought, God dang it, I'm going to get into. I'm not going to let this $300 piece of hardware just sit around, this Linksys router, and not use it, And so so I got into the project of converting over from the Netgear to the Linksys. Now, the first thing, this is going to be 2 videos, so we're just going to talk the first part of this about computer equipment. So the first thing on the Linksys EA9500 is that it gives you a URL. Okay, it's just basically a web page, and for whatever reason, it does want you connected to the internet, and what it does is it goes out, and it's hard to tell, at first when you're working with it, whether you're on the internet or whether you're logged into the router, because it's just a web page. Now, is it a local web page on your computer? Is it? So it turned out when I first got started, what it was doing was it took me out onto the internet, had me create an account. I thought I was creating an account on my router. No, I was creating it at the Linksys website, and then I was changing all the settings there, and I assume that's so that you can download those settings to the router, but that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to work directly with the router on the computer. So I did all this work, and then so finally I switched out the route because I was doing it through the Netgear router, so that I could still watch TV while I was working and everything. And I just was trying to, because I was using the Netgear to configure the Linksys, and then once the Linksys was configured, plug and play. You pop out the Netgear router and pop in the Linksys router. Well, when I popped it in, nothing was working. And then it wanted me to go through the whole, and what I realized was I had set everything up on the internet and nothing in the router. And I couldn't figure out how to download those settings from the internet to the router. And in fact, it was prompting me to create a whole new account. And so finally, what I figured out was you had to enter the actual IP address. It was 192.168.1.1, and that will take you directly to, because if you just enter the URL, once again, it takes you out on the internet. Linksys, I don't know why these companies, they always want to know everything about you. They always want you to create an account. I think it's bullcrap, man. It really is bullcrap. And Linksys really hurts themselves. I mean, they got some beautiful hardware, but anyway, so once I entered that IP address, I was able to get logged in locally on the router, and then of course I set up all the settings. Now Linksys, once again, I fault them. They're a lot like the big providers. The thing I love about the Netgear is you can get into every nitty-gritty little detail on the Netgear router, even though it's old. Whereas the Linksys, they want to do everything behind the scenes. You can only do like general changes. So for example, I wanted to use, if you ever look, to use Benchmark DNS. Benchmark DNS, you can look it up on the internet. And what that does is, and if you have to go ahead and generate a file. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes. And what that'll do is it'll use the ISP DNS, because that's the default for the router. And it'll go out and build a DNS list, the best ones, the fastest ones that you can use. And then what you can do is configure the router to use those DNS servers. And yet, also the thing I like about that is if your ISP is spying on you, at least you're going through somebody else's domain name server. Okay, so it does give you I think, a little bit more privacy or an added level of security, whichever way you want to look at it, by using somebody else's DNS server. Plus, it's going to give you a little bit faster speed because, I don't know if you've ever suffered from your DNS server going down, but that just basically takes down your whole network, TVs and everything. So that's kind of where it was once I got it configured. Now I'm running into the next problem because it was using the 2.4 gigahertz network. If you're familiar with routers, they broadcast at 5G and then also at 2.4. It was using 2.4 for me wirelessly on the laptop to set up the Linksys router. And then for whatever reason now, I can't get it to broadcast at 2.4 because I've got it set to say this broadcast the SID because I want to use that on the laptop, and that's also a good thing to do with your networks. You want your TVs on your 5G, and then if you've got like a laptop or something, go ahead and use the 2.4. That way you're splitting your traffic and you'll get a little bit better performance. But for some reason, the router's not broadcasting the 2.4. I was up really late, and also it's dropping the connection on the 5G, and I don't know why that's happening. I may end up having to go back to the doggone Netgear router. But so the other dilemma, and this is pretty cool, and it's a dilemma that I didn't anticipate, was this is I bought a new 65-inch TCL TV with the micro LED technology. Like I said, $1,000, and the original plan was to put this TV right here on a stand. You can buy those TV stands. Highly recommend you get them because then you can swivel the TV. You don't want to just use the little legs because, well, in a lot of furniture, those legs, especially for the 65-inch, they're so long, it won't fit on top. I'm lucky in the fact that it just barely fits on top of this thing, but I've already ordered a stand for it. So the plan was to take the 55-inch TV here, which was a good TV. That was my mom's TV. And I was going to put that in the office I've got a wall mount bracket, and then take the 48 old 15-year-old, 10-year-old TV and just put it in the living room, and I'll probably hardly even watch it, except maybe when I'm cooking. Sometimes there's just like a little noise in the background, radio versus TV, and that way I could watch it in there. But the 55-inch TV, the bracket, the the hole alignment wouldn't line up on the 55. So now I was screwed, and the guy's here putting in the TVs. So I had him put the 55 on the stand, and I left the 48 inch because the 48 inch is worthless. I mean, think about it. The TV's probably worth 50 bucks, maybe 100 bucks. That's in the bracket, if I recall, I spent like 130 bucks for. And I was hoping there might be another piece that I could screw into the bracket to allow me to mount the 55. No, there's not. So I'd have to buy a whole new bracket. Now you can get a bracket for about 50 bucks, a good one, a pretty decent one, and mount the 55, and then go with the original plan. But what's the point? Why am I going to take a crappy piece of hardware, pay a guy $150, $200? That's worth more than the 48-inch TV and the bracket combined. And then what am I going to have? I'll just have the 55. So anyway, the best of both worlds. I ended up with the 55 and the 48 in the office. And I thought, well, you know what? This would be really cool because what I can do is hook an HDMI cable up to the computers, or a computer, depending on which one I'm using, and then use that as a monitor while I watch TV or do whatever on the 55-inch, or vice versa. But the problem, next technical problem, was this remote controls both TVs. This is just the TCL infrared remote. Now they have, if you go, and so I went to YouTube and I watched all kinds of videos. There's all kinds of different remotes. You can buy IR remotes and radio frequency remotes, and because what I was trying to do was narrow down a remote to work on one TV and another remote to work on the other TV. So finally, I just happened to come across a video about using the app on your cell phone and to control the TVs. And I thought, well, let me check that out. Because watching the video, it looked like he was able to go in and just use the phone like a remote and do what he wanted with just one TV. And I said, well, because my TVs are literally side by side in the office. One hanging on the wall, one just on a stand. So I thought, well, okay, let's give that a try. So I put the app onto my phone. Well, the next problem was my wife took the TVs when she moved out and divorced me. So when you log into Roku, because you have to, a long time ago, I set up an account on Roku. I hadn't logged in good God, probably years. And, and of course, all that stuff happens behind the scenes when you buy a new TV. I didn't log into the account. So when I logged in, I couldn't figure out which TV was which, because she took two TVs, and I think I've gotten rid of one or two. So there was like 10 TVs configured on the Roku thing. I'm like, oh, which one is which, And I said, well, you know what, rather than try to figure this all out, I'll just delete all these configurations, So I deleted them all except for the 65, because I knew what the 65 was. Well, what I didn't know is that completely wipes out the TVs. You have to rebuild the TVs from scratch, just like you got a new TV, and do log in everything, log in your Netflix, so good God, that took me hours there to get. But I do now have all the TVs identified. I've only got 4. Would you say 4? 2 of them are like 10 years old. I mean, my wife left me the crappy stuff. So now, what was really cool was you really are able to just use the phone, and you can control one TV individually and use the TV just like a remote. Now, I'm still exploring the capabilities of the app, but it's pretty doggone sophisticated. And that's why the reason, what clued me into that, if you ever watch Viva Fry on YouTube, was he's always got his phone, and when he's doing broadcasts, because he's bringing up stuff from the internet, and he's got multiple people with conference called in, and so I noticed he's always using his phone to manipulate what you're seeing on the video, and so now I'm getting the clue. So probably I'm hoping someday to be doing the same thing. So I'll be using my phone to control, one or the other TV, and then, and probably with the I think it's called OBS software. I haven't gotten into it yet. That's for so that you can cast multiple devices into a video stream and conference in multiple people and control it all from the phone. And so that gets back to me upgrading the phone. Let's just talk about that piece of equipment, and that'll be the end of this video, and then I'll get into the next video. All right, so When I first got here, I was having problems making phone calls, and believe me, I'm on the phone. Well, I was when I first got here because all the insurance companies are after me for money. The HOA wants me to power wash the driveway. I got to fix, got to get some black stuff off the roof. I had to pull up all the weeds. So anyway, without a phone, I was just screwed. I mean, when I first got here, because everybody wants a piece of me, Oh, he's got a little bit of money. I don't have much money. I mean, especially not anymore. And so, but they all come after you all at once. And so the phone kept dropping the doggone phone calls. And I said, you know what, screw this, man. And I use Google Fi. You use who you want, Patriot Mobile or, Verizon, if you want to spend a ton of money, whatever your internet, your phone provider you want to use. I like Google Fi because they always offer these deals where you can take your phone. I had the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, okay, because I wanted the camera because I was making videos with it when I could hike. By the way, I'm getting back into hiking. I'm going to try to do about 2.5 miles tomorrow. I'm not going to make a video about it, but I'm starting to get to where I can walk a ways, and that'll be pretty cool. But it's just on asphalt. I still haven't done a real trail, but I'm getting encouraged. All right, getting off of that. So the nice thing about Google Fi is that you can upgrade your phone and then immediately send in your old phone and get money for it. And if it's in good condition, I got $400 for the old phone. Now, granted, the new phone was like, I don't know, with 256, memory in the phone, which is more than enough for a gazillion videos and a ton of pictures, I dare say I got the phone for about $500 or less for the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. And I tell you what, I don't regret it. Of course, then you got to set up the phone and, I backed up all my data and, but I tell you, the new phone, it does stay connected to Google Fi. Now, whether that was a configuration setting in the old phone, but I'm just telling you, check out Google Fi if you want to get a new phone, if you need to upgrade like I did. And plus, I didn't think about the fact that I'd be using this phone for jump-starting my business. The last piece of hardware that I just wanted to discuss is I had an old back 1500 APC UPS. I think I already talked about this in a video. The battery was dead. It was $100 for a new battery, or I could trade up to a smart UPS. So I went ahead and traded up $500. Okay, now you say that's a lot of money. Well, here in Florida, we get a lot of thunderstorms, and if I do actually get some live streams going and I have some conference calls and stuff, the last thing you want is your power going out in the middle of a conference call, or even making a live video, for example. So you got to have a backup power supply. So I've already got one. I bought the Cat Daddy, but it's about 2 years old. Now it's going to last me hopefully another 2 or 3 years. But I wanted another power supply just in case that power supply goes. And also to replace the batteries in these power supplies, it's not that expensive. And so that old back UPS was from 2016, whereas the smart UPS now is 20. So I brought up my technology up to 2022. Now, in 5 years, I'll replace that battery in the smart UPS, but I'll just replace the battery. It's not I don't have to buy the whole unit or anything. So that'll save me a ton of money. So there you go. And I'm going to finish off this video. And this was the complaint, and we'll talk about this in the next video. It's good to live in the free state of Florida. Okay, under the great leadership of Governor DeSantis, I thought it was great when he sent all the illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard to basically poke the liberals in the eye and say, look, we're not a sanctuary state here in Florida. If you want, in these other states, these Democrat states, they're saying they're sanctuaries for illegal aliens. Well, we got 2 million that have come across the border so far. I say we send them to Chicago, keep sending them to Washington, D.C., because these are sanctuary cities. They can take better care of. We don't want them here. We want people to legally immigrate to Florida, and usually we're getting the best of the best that way. I just noticed today our space agency, they're looking to hire some smart people. I guarantee you the people pouring across the border in Texas are not going to be able to work at the space agency here in Florida, but somebody legally immigrating from the Netherlands or some other portion of the world, or even educated out of Brazil or Hell, even Venezuela, I imagine there's still might be some educated people there, come into the country and we can put them to work. All right, so that's it for the video. You know, if you're a Democrat, and I say this on every video, why are you in Florida? Go to New York, go to well, especially California, because the weather there is actually better than it, because right now it's raining, man. I tell you, we're in the rainy season. It's been raining every day here in Florida, you know, so why go to California where the weather's good, you know? Why do you want to live in a Republican state? You know, go be with like-minded people. All right, let's see how this goes.